Hello, history lovers. Have you ever wondered how a small town in Italy came to dominate much of the known world and then, like a titan, collapsed into the abyss of oblivion? Today, in The Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire, we will unravel the mysteries and epic battles, the most insidious betrayals, and the most legendary characters that forged and destroyed one of humanity's greatest empires. Get ready for an amazing journey through time, where every twist and turn will reveal secrets that will take your breath away. Do not miss it. The Roman Empire was not only a formidable military and political power, but also a melting pot of cultures and a beacon of innovation. Their legacies in law, engineering, architecture, literature, and art have left an indelible mark on Western civilization and beyond. Through these three parts, we will discover how Rome grew from a small city-state in central Italy to become a global metropolis in the heart of an empire that stretched from the British Isles to the Sahara Desert and from the Iberian Peninsula to the Middle East. We will meet legendary figures such as Julius Caesar, Augustus, Constantine, and many others whose decisions and actions shaped the course of history. We will delve into the political intrigues, epic battles, and architectural innovations that defined Rome and its legacy. Additionally, we will explore how Christianity found its way into the fabric of the empire, transforming not only Rome, but the entire world. The Roman Empire witnessed great glories and titanic challenges. Their conquests expanded borders, but they also brought with them conflicts and crises. Throughout our series, we will examine how Rome faced and overcame these trials, and how her solutions to political, economic, and social problems still teach us valuable lessons today. This series is not only a journey through time, but also a reflection on Rome's lasting impact on our modern world. From the languages we speak to the laws we follow, the spirit of the Roman Empire lives in our daily lives. By the end of this series, we hope you will have a deeper appreciation for how this ancient civilization has shaped the world we live in. Prepare for an epic adventure through the centuries, where each episode will reveal the complex and fascinating layers of Roman history. Let's begin this extraordinary journey to the heart of the Roman Empire. The origins of Rome date back to a mixture of myth and reality. According to legend, Rome was founded in the year 753 before Christ by Romulus and Remus, two twin brothers who were raised by a she-wolf. This mythical story is set in the context of Latium, a region of central Italy inhabited by Latin tribes. However, archaeological evidence suggests that human settlement in the Rome area dates back to the 8th century before Christ, when small villages began to establish themselves on the hills surrounding the Tiber River. Rome's strategic position, located at the crossroads of important trade routes and with access to the river, facilitated its growth. Initially, these communities were agrarian villages that benefited from the fertile plain of Latium. Over time, the union of these villages into a confederation led to the formation of a city-state. Rome stood out for its ability to integrate conquered peoples, which allowed it to increase its population and resources. This integration was key to its early expansion and consolidation. Monarchy was the first system of government in Rome, with a series of kings ruling the city. According to tradition, there were 7 kings, starting with Romulus and ending with Tarquin the Proud. Each of these kings contributed in different ways to the development of the city, establishing political, religious, and social institutions that laid the foundations of the future Roman Republic. The expulsion of Tarquin in 509 before Christ, it marked the end of the monarchy and the beginning of the Republic, a period characterized by a more participatory system of government. The end of the monarchy and the beginning of the Republic were driven by discontent with the tyranny of the last kings. This change reflected a desire for greater representation and balance of power, which was achieved through institutions such as the Senate and elections. The Republic allowed Rome to adapt and grow in a region filled with conflict, establishing a model of government that would influence future civilizations. The beginnings of Rome, therefore, not only mark the birth of a city, but the beginning of one of the most influential civilizations in history. With those bases, I follow. The period of establishment of the Republic in the year 509 before Christ marked a crucial turning point in the history of Rome. This change occurred after the expulsion of the last Etruscan king, Tarquin the Proud, due to his tyranny and abuse of power. The Roman nobility, fed up with monarchical rule, united to overthrow the king and abolish the monarchy. This event was driven by the desire to prevent abuse of power and ensure greater citizen participation in government. The Roman Republic was structured around new political institutions designed to prevent the concentration of power. A system of consuls was established, two magistrates elected annually who shared executive power. This structure ensured that power was always divided and subject to control, preventing the emergence of a new monarch. In addition, the Senate was created, an assembly composed of aristocrats that played a crucial role in making political decisions and supervising the consuls. The initial period of the Republic was marked by internal conflicts between the aristocracy, patricians, and the plebs, plebeians. Commoners, who made up the majority of the population, fought for greater rights and representation in government. This struggle led to the creation of new institutions, such as the tribunate of the plebes, which defended the interests of the plebeians and had the power to veto decisions of the Senate. These changes were fundamental to the development of a more inclusive and balanced political structure. The establishment of the Republic not only transformed Rome's internal politics, but also laid the foundation for its future expansion. The new government structure allowed for greater stability and cohesion, which facilitated the organization and mobilization of resources for the conquest of new lands. The Roman Republic became a dynamic and flexible political entity, capable of adapting to internal and external challenges, and laying the foundation for the creation of one of the largest and most enduring empires in history. After establishing the Republic, the expansion through the Italian peninsula followed. The expansion of Rome throughout the Italian peninsula began with the consolidation of its dominion in Latium. Starting in the 5th century before Christ, Rome faced its closest neighbors, such as the Etruscans, the Sabines, and the Volscians, in a series of wars that allowed it to expand its territory. The victory over the Etruscans, in particular, was crucial, as it allowed Rome to secure its control over trade routes and strengthen its strategic position. During the 4th century before Christ, Rome continued its expansion facing the Latin League, a confederation of Latin cities that represented a serious threat to its hegemony. The Battle of Lake Regillo in 496 before Christ. It marked a decisive victory for Rome and allowed her to consolidate her control over the region. Rome later adopted a policy of alliances and treaties with conquered cities, allowing them to maintain some autonomy in exchange for military and political support. Roman expansion accelerated after the Gallic invasion and sack of Rome in 390 before Christ. This traumatic event led Rome to strengthen its army and its defenses. In the following years, Rome faced the Samnites in a series of wars that would last more than half a century. The Samnite Wars, fought between 343 and 290 before Christ, were crucial to Rome's expansion to the south and east of the peninsula. The final victory over the Samnites consolidated Roman control over much of central Italy. Finally, throughout the 3rd century before Christ, Rome confronted the powerful Greek city-states of southern Italy known as Magna Graecia. The war against Pyrrhus, king of Epirus, was particularly notable. Pyrrhus invaded Italy in 290 before Christ, intending to stop Roman expansion, but despite some initial victories, he was ultimately defeated. The defeat of Pyrrhus and the subsequent submission of the Greek cities marked the end of Roman expansion throughout the Italian peninsula consolidating Rome as the dominant power in Italy before its confrontation with Carthage in the Punic Wars. The Punic Wars and the expansion through the Mediterranean. The Punic Wars were a series of 3 conflicts between Rome and Carthage that were fought between the 3rd and 2nd centuries before Christ, and which had a significant impact on Roman expansion in the Mediterranean. The First Punic War from 264 to 241 before Christ. It began due to commercial and territorial rivalries in Sicily, a region of great strategic importance. Rome, initially without a powerful fleet, had to innovate in naval warfare to confront the Carthaginian navy. The war ended with Rome's victory and the annexation of Sicily, its first province outside the Italian peninsula. The Second Punic War, 218 to 201 before Christ. It is perhaps the most famous, largely due to the Carthaginian commander Hannibal, who crossed the Alps with his army and elephants to invade Italy. Hannibal achieved several important victories, such as the Battle of Cannae in 216 before Christ, where he inflicted one of the worst defeats in Roman history. However, Rome adopted a strategy of attrition and eventually took the war to Carthaginian territory in North Africa. At the Battle of Zama in 202 before Christ, the Roman general Scipio Africanus defeated Hannibal, ending the war with a resounding Roman victory. After the devastating Second Punic War, Rome continued to consider Carthage a potential threat. Thus, in the year 149 before Christ, the Third Punic War broke out. Rome, seeking to eliminate any possibility of a Carthaginian resurgence, launched a decisive attack. After a brutal siege that lasted 3 years, the city of Carthage was completely destroyed in 146 before Christ. The survivors were enslaved, and the Carthaginian territory was transformed into the Roman province of Africa. Simultaneously, Rome was in conflict with the Hellenistic regions of Greece. The process of conquest was gradual and began with the war against the Kingdom of Macedonia, which culminated in the Battle of Pydna in 168 before Christ. This victory meant the end of Macedonian power and the incorporation of its territories into Roman rule. However, Rome's influence in Greece was not consolidated until after a series of subsequent revolts and wars that culminated in the destruction of the city of Corinth in 146 before Christ, the same year as the fall of Carthage. The conquest of Greece was significant not only for territorial expansion, but also for the profound cultural influence that Greece exerted on Rome. The Romans adopted many of the Greek arts, philosophy, and customs, integrating these elements into their own culture. This cultural exchange was so intense that although Greece was subjugated militarily, it conquered Rome culturally. This period marked the beginning of what is known as Roman Hellenism, a fusion of Greek and Roman cultures that would define the cultural identity of the Roman Empire for centuries to come. The victories over Carthage and Greece consolidated Rome as the hegemonic power in the Mediterranean. The destruction of Carthage eliminated one of its most persistent and dangerous rivals, ensuring Rome's security in the Western Mediterranean. Meanwhile, the conquest of Greece not only added vast territories to the Republic, but also allowed Rome to access the rich cultural and material resources of the ancient Greek city-states. These conquests culminated in the crisis of the Roman Republic, marked by the fierce competition between Gaius Marius and Lucius Cornelius Sulla, was a tumultuous period of civil wars and military reforms in the 1st century before Christ. Gaius Marius, a popular general and politician, was notable for his reforms in the Roman army, allowing men without property to enlist, which professionalized and strengthened the Roman legion. These reforms won him the support of soldiers and the people, but also created personal loyalty to the general rather than the state, planting the seeds of future power struggles. Lucius Cornelius Sulla, an aristocrat and also a skilled general, emerged as Marius's most formidable rival. Sulla and Marius first faced each other in the Social War of 91 to 91, where Sulla proved to be an effective commander. However, the real confrontation began when both sought the prestigious command in the war against King Mithridates VI of Pontus. The Senate gave command to Sulla, but Marius, using his influence and popularity, managed to get the assembly. Popular will grant him the same command, unleashing a direct conflict. This conflict quickly escalated into a civil war. Sulla, in an unprecedented act, marched on Rome with his legions in 88 before Christ, forcing Marius to flee. Sulla, after securing command and successfully leading the campaign against Mithridates, returned to Rome and proclaimed himself dictator in 82 before Christ. His dictatorship was brutal and was marked by bans, lists of political enemies that had to be eliminated, consolidating his power through terror and reforms that sought to strengthen the authority of the Senate and reduce the power of the popular ones. The fight between Marius and Sulla was not only a struggle for control of Rome, but also a struggle between two visions of how the Republic should be governed. Marius represented the popular, supported by the lower classes and soldiers, while Sulla represented the optimates, the aristocratic faction. The rivalry between these two leaders exacerbated social and political tensions, and Sulla's violence and authoritarian reforms left a lasting legacy of instability. This period of crisis set the stage for the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Roman Empire under Julius Caesar and Augustus. Julius Caesar, one of the most iconic figures in Roman history, played a crucial role in the fall of the Roman Republic and the rise of the empire. His rise to power began with his participation in the First Triumvirate, a political alliance with Pompey and Crassus that allowed him to obtain the consulship in the year 59 before Christ. Taking advantage of this position, Caesar secured command of the provinces of Gaul, where he carried out a series of military campaigns that not only expanded Roman territory, but also earned him immense prestige and loyalty among his troops. The inevitable conflict between Caesar and Pompey, exacerbated by the death of Crassus and the Senate's growing distrust of Caesar's power, culminated in a civil war. In 49 before Christ, Caesar crossed the Rubicon River with his legions, an act of direct insubordination against the Senate that catapulted him into absolute control of Rome. After defeating Pompey at the Battle of Pharsalia in 48 before Christ, Caesar established himself as the undisputed leader, being named perpetual dictator in 44 before Christ. During his brief rule, he implemented a series of reforms that centralized power and sought to stabilize the Republic. However, Caesar's rise to absolute power generated enormous concern among defenders of the Republic, who feared that his rule would lead to a monarchy. This concern led a group of senators, led by Cassius and Brutus, to conspire and ultimately assassinate Caesar on March 15th, 44 before Christ. His death, rather than restoring the Republic, plunged Rome into a new series of civil wars as his followers and his assassins fought for control of power. The power vacuum left by Caesar's death was quickly filled by his adopted heir, Octavian, who formed the Second Triumvirate with Mark Antony and Lepidus to defeat Caesar's assassins. Following victory at the Battle of Philippi in 42 before Christ, the Triumvirate disintegrated, and Octavian and Antony faced each other in a final struggle for power. Octavian's victory at the Battle of Actium in 31 before Christ. It marked the end of the civil wars and the birth of the Roman Empire. Octavian, who adopted the title Augustus, became the first emperor of Rome, marking the definitive end of the Republic and the beginning of a new era in Roman history. In this first part of our series on the Roman Empire, we have explored the impressive expansion of Rome throughout the Mediterranean basin. From its modest beginnings as a city-state in central Italy, Rome became a military and political power that dominated the known world. From the Punic Wars to Julius Caesar's campaigns in Gaul, we have seen how Rome expanded its borders through military conquests and strategic alliances. The incorporation of new provinces and cultures into the empire not only expanded its territory, but also enriched its culture and economy. In the next episode, we will explore the birth of the Roman Empire and the ascension of its first emperor, Augustus. We will see how Augustus consolidated imperial power and established a new political order that would forever transform the destiny of Rome and the Mediterranean world. Join us on this exciting journey through time as we discover the events that led to the creation of the Roman Empire and to the reign of one of its most influential leaders. See you in the next episode.